Good morning and welcome to Rising, a real blockbuster of a show today, Robbie. You're going to laugh, you're going to cry. It's going to be a roller coaster.
Wow. I'm not feeling very emotional this morning, but we'll find out, I guess.
We'll see.
Max Alvarez and Denise Long will be here for panel. They will discuss Deutsche Bank's forecast of a recession. Plus, journalist Ankush Kardori explains why the FBI is spending millions on tracking Americans via social media after the January 6th aftermath.
But right now, let's talk about former President Obama's return to the White House. Yesterday, Obama joined President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris on Pennsylvania Avenue to promote the Affordable Care Act, Obama's signature legislation during his time in office. Democrats are betting the former president can give Biden a boost in the polls as Biden's approval ratings continue to sink. Obama joined the current president in signing an executive order directing federal agencies to find new ways to improve Medicare and Affordable Care Act coverage while lowering costs. It was the former president's first time back in the White House in 5 years. And he praised Biden for the American Rescue Plan, adding that it improved the ACA. Here's Biden declaring he's still Obama's Veep.
Thank you very much. Please. My name is Joe Biden. I'm Barack Obama's vice president.
Former press secretary for the Sanders campaign and host of the Bad Faith podcast, Briahna Joy Gray, joins us now to discuss Obama's return to the spotlight. Briahna, welcome.
Thank you, Ryan.
And so, interestingly, Biden and Obama are both right that the American Rescue Plan significantly improved on the Affordable Care Act with a bunch of generous subsidies. They produced something like generous health care for people. That, of course, is going to expire right around the time of the election. What on earth are these people thinking?
You're flabbergasted.
Well, Ryan, Robbie,
let's elevate this thing we're about to take away from you.
The thinking is pretty clear. Look, Obama is popular, Biden isn't. Let's get these two guys behind the podium together and see what magic can spark. That seems to be as far as this thinking has gone. But, lest we forget, there are ways that they could improve our healthcare system by executive order. I applaud them for trying to think of new ways to help the American people, but there are some old ways that exist under Obama's own legislation. David Dayen wrote early in the pandemic about the ways in which using Section 1881 of the Social Security Act, they can expand under emergency authority Medicare to all Americans. They did this in Libby, Montana, after the town was hit by widespread asbestos poisoning. And they take away all the limitations for people who live there to just enroll in Medicare, as Nixon did something similar with kidney illness in the 1970s, and on and on and on. Look, I feel like it's my job. I know I come on here and sometimes people think I'm talking about larks and fantasies, but there have been all of these moments in our own American history where the government has decided in the context of an emergency, like the global pandemic we continue to be in, to use its authority to give health care to everyone for free. In fact, both Kamala Harris and Joe Biden said during the campaign trail that they thought it was the ethical thing to do to make sure that no American would have to pay out of pocket, that healthcare should be free with respect to COVID. Now, I think that it's deeply irresponsible and unethical to understand that that's the case for COVID and not for any other ailment. I think it's deeply irresponsible and unethical to allow Americans to experience bankruptcy. 50% of bankruptcies happening because of medical issues, medical costs. But hey, I'll take what I can get. And it's just frustrating that we're doing this kind of pomp and circumstance behind the podium instead of grabbing the bull by the horns.
Mm. Well, another important story we broke yesterday that we wanted to discuss with you, the Biden administration will enact another extension on federal student loans through the end of August, according to multiple reports. Some GOP senators blasted the move. Senator Tom Cotton called it an insult to Americans who pay their debts, while progressive Congressman Ro Khanna called on the administration to cancel them altogether. So I know you've been talking about this a lot, Briahna. I think you want a cancellation altogether, but you have to be a little happy to get the additional delay.
Well, my understanding is that the real reason that the student loan pause keeps getting extended is because the services are in disarray. So at least two major federal loan servicers have quit the program. And there's a huge concern that once they start re-implementing or recalling these payments, that paperwork has been lost, the addresses have been changed, that people are going to go unbilled, and they don't actually know how to start the payments back up again. So while this might be framed as a benevolent gift from our government, at the end of the day, we are getting a gift, but it's basically because they don't know how to restart the payments. And that's going to continue for some time now. Now, the question is, how do you get full cancellation or some permanent pause such that we can have some kind of reliance interest and plan our lives? I think it's really interesting that if we were talking about money in, money out in some more corporate business context, I don't think that anyone would settle for the level of uncertainty that student borrowers are up against. Again, remember, these are not just kids. We have the largest population, the quickest growing population of people who are paying back student debts are senior citizens. Social Security checks being garnished left, right, and center to pay student loan debts. And people are trying to make decisions about whether to buy homes, move, have kids on their current bills, not really knowing when this is going to kick in. And yes, I absolutely do think we need full cancellation. I attended a student debt protest a couple of days ago, where I got to say, despite a lot of progressives, Ro Khanna included, saying that they are pushing for student debt cancellation, none of them were there. None to be found.
We have to end this whole system. If it's so fraudulent that at the end of the day, people are going to beg to have government, with a stroke of the pen, cancel these debts, then nobody should be able to take out these loans in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point, Robbie. Part of the issue here is that these loans are usurious to begin with. We used to have a much more robust public education system, and the funding was stripped away. Look at the UC schools, for example, how the provisions for the funding for those schools was stripped away, and they served a more limited part of the population. As, frankly, we saw a rise in college enrollment in part because of the end of segregation in the 1960s. That is not an accident that those things happened at the same time. I would argue for a robust public education system that provides college for free the same way that we have K through 12 for free, which at one point was disputed and not a right in this country either. But as we became a country that required people to have a high school education to get a job, that we decided that we needed to have an educated workforce that could meet the moment. And similarly, now that we require college or vocational programs for people to contribute to society meaningfully, we should allow people to get that for free instead of the system we have right now, which is that affluent people from affluent families get to go to college for the sticker price, where poor people have to pay a premium in terms of usurious interest rates that are as high as 8%. So people who have mortgages and cars who are complaining, well, what about my debt? I agree. Let's work on programs to make those things more affordable as well. But student debts are unique insofar as that they're held by the federal government and can be canceled without any cost. This does not affect the federal balance sheet. This does not put us into debt. And moreover, it's the federal government that induced people to take out these loans on a false promise saying this is going to benefit your life and benefit the country. Well, we held up our end of the bargain. We became educated and a part of the workforce. The government hasn't held up its bargain and instead is making money off of student debtors, many of whom have paid back the full value of their loan, but are paying 25%, 50%, 100% more, sometimes multiple factors more over the term of their loan because of these interest rates.
Right, and the cost is just completely out of control. And so you'll hear from a lot of baby boomers and even Gen Xers, like, I paid off my college debts. I worked my way through school. I went to a state school in Maryland in the 90s. And okay, I had some student debt, but not a ton. About 15 years later, I took my younger sister as a senior in high school to this college. I was really trying to push her hard. You would love this place. You should go here. So I sat through like the parent thing. I'm looking at the prices. It was like Harvard level costs compared to like what Harvard cost when I was going there. Like for this, I mean, it's a great school, but like
these things aren't unrelated. There's studies have shown. There's a study from, I believe, it's the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, that it's the loan subsidy that the cost is completely passed on via the sticker price.
And plus this massive explosion in administrative costs.
Massive explosion in administrative costs.
Because professors aren't getting more money. They're actually getting much less money.
Well, and more of them are adjuncts who work for.
Right, and
pennies.
so if a public school is going to cost you $40,000 a year, like,
right,
Right. And not to mention that a huge proportion of the debt that people have is from vocational schools. I know that people want to make this unworthy Harvard grad the poster child for all of this, but ignore me, ignore my debt. The reality is that Harvard is free now. After I graduated, they made it free, but that's something for me and my therapist to talk about. But the reality is we're not talking about Harvard grads here. We're talking about many, many people. The largest proportion of debt is coming from people, is owned by people who went to a lot of these for-profit colleges, and also people who took out money for vocational training. And the idea that that the folks want to characterize this kind of Pete Buttigieg getting off for free should remember that people with means didn't take out debt. Right. Nobody who could pay the full price of college signs up to pay an 8% interest rate that has the average borrower owing more. The average Black borrower owes more 12 years after graduation than they did the day that they graduated.
So, Briahna, how about a 9-year pause? Like, what should like?
Well, that's the thing. Take someone in my situation. I had $18 worth of interest in the first year that I paid my loans back, my law school loans back, right? I easily accrue, if I weren't able to keep up with my debts, still, I would easily accrue $10,000 of interest a year. The idea of having a 9-year pause, a 10-year pause, that's $100,000 saved. That's all money that I could be putting to my principal. Well, they're not adding
interest right now either.
I'm sorry?
Well, now they're not adding interest. Like they're also.
Well, I know,
Right.
which is why I've been able to make such a dent in my loans.
Right.
I've been able to save more that can pay off the principal when things start up in a way that I've never been able to do before. So I think a lot of people, depending on your loan amount, but a lot of people think that an extended pause is much more beneficial than paying off just $10,000 of debt.
Yeah.
Do not take out a loan to go to college. Cannot say that to our audience. Don't do it. Don't ever do it. Don't let your children do it.
But I mean,
it's a scam. Don't do it.
That's the sad thing. You're still better off, even though it's a scam. In general, you're probably still better off.
I don't think so. I think people just take out a loan and just do anything with that money other than like waste it on college.
It depends on the college. There are definitely different returns on your investment, but they also don't tell you that. What they're telling everyone, and I think about my community, so many of my family members who were told, just go and get these nursing degrees, go get these associate degrees, pay for these degrees that don't really increase your income at all. They're really pushing this as the American dream. It was a substitute. Right. It was a substitute for substantive social reforms as jobs were sent overseas and the neoliberalism of the 90s took over. They told all of the populations that were being left behind, it's your fault because you didn't get an education. So all of these low-income people ran and said, okay, I'm going to do what I was told. I'm going to get an education. And those people who weren't able to get degrees from esteemed institutions are really suffering the consequences the most right now.
I'm just worried about overly credentialing. You have to be, first you need, we decided, you really got to graduate high school to be a productive member of society. Oh, you got to really go to college to be a productive member of society. How many more years of mindless, pointless, time-wasting education do we add on to this? People are like 35 before you can begin adult life and just like work and have a family and make money. That's bad.
Well, I mean, my goal in life has always been to avoid doing real work. And the more college that you have, the better chance you have of not having to do actual work.
I mean, we're pundits, so we don't, I have not put hammer to nail in my life, but
not doing any work. Anyway, Briahna,
I think you work hard, Ryan.
But it's not work.
This guy, he's got multiple pundit jobs, whole family, cats escaping in the middle of the night.
Yeah, but it's not work. It's not work. It's just fun.
Briahna, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys. Always a pleasure.
Coming up next, we'll tell you what's on our radars.